devotional. This devotional series, we've been looking at this idea of justice and righteousness and what does this mean for God and what does it mean for us, his followers. If you've been watching, you'll also notice that at the beginning and the end of these, I have a little picture, a JPEG file that just kind of comes up. And it's taken from the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. Micah chapter 6, verse 8, which says this: He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. And so again, what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. This passage is one that a lot of Christians really hold on to. They really like it. It's one that's sort of the favorite verses that people think about. But what is it about, really? Don't forget, there's a context here. Micah is a prophet. He's speaking to the people of Judah in the southern kingdom, and he's just challenging them. They're asking the question, what does God want from us? Does he want us to do more rituals? Does he want us to do more sacrifices? Does he want us to do more religious things? And in that conversation, God reveals to Micah, he says, well, I just want these three things. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly. Act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. And so what does this mean, really? Act justly, again, is the idea of having a sense of right and wrong and making sure that we have a responsibility for equality and equity. We have a responsibility to protect the innocent, to do things with a sense of right and wrong, and to always be on the side of right. And so the problem back then was they were just abusing people. They were using people. And God was saying, you're causing injustice by the way we do things. And so he's reminding his people again, I want you to act with justice, to right the wrongs, to do the right things at all times. The second thing then is to love mercy. And the idea of mercy there is the word hesed. It's a great Hebrew word. It's got such depth of meaning, but really he's talking about mercy or loving kindness. And what this is that we're supposed to provide mercy for people. We're supposed to love others and to not just have a feeling of love, but to also back that up in service and in action, to serve others, to treat others better than ourselves. And it goes back to that parable of the Good Samaritan, really, to just love others as yourself. And this is what we're called to do: is to we're called to just show love to our fellow human being because God first loved us. The third piece there is to walk humbly. It's a description of our heart attitude towards God, really. We depend on God much more than we ever really acknowledge. And so instead of taking pride in what we do for God, instead of taking pride in what we bring to God, we are to humbly recognize no amount of personal sacrifice, no amount of service that we will ever do will ever replace what God's heart is looking for. God's heart is committed to looking for justice and love. And so we can boast about our religious acts. We can say, I pray every day, I read my Bible every day. And again, there's nothing wrong with those things. But God is also saying, but if you haven't dealt with things like justice, if you're not living justly, and if you're not loving mercy, you're not really walking humbly either. And so let's not boast about all these great things that we think we're doing, because those things pale in comparison to God's standards and God's desire to see justice and mercy. So that's the challenge here. These three simple steps, they're simple, yet I always find the simple things in our faith are the things that are really challenging to live out day in and day out. The simple things of our faith are really challenging to live out day in and day out. So take it for what it is. Go out there, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. That's it for me this week on Pastor's Corner. We'll see you next time. Love and peace.